but understanding and so how is that different than some of the other spaces in
I would
the needs of a
say,
healthcare?
yeah, I would say the requirements just for medical, it's very specific. There's terminology. There's just things that I know from working with them for so long that they need. And retail people are the same way. They know what their retail groups need. So I think it's just understanding your niche and what the client expects. But medical, we've seen a transition from, there used to be the medical office buildings on hospital campuses, and those were your providers. And so you went to them wherever those were. And now we have seen a shift where the providers are going to the patients. And so they're going out into the tertiary markets and they're expanding and having multiple satellite offices because patients want convenience, they want access. And so, in order to be competitive, because there's a lot more competition now, that's what they're having to do. And so we're seeing them move a little bit more towards, we've seen some medtail a little bit already. Not every medical office group needs foot traffic. So they're not all going to be in strip centers that need to walk up, traffic, but they don't all need to be in medical office buildings either, and so we've just seen that shift over the last few years.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about that same thing, more localized approach to healthcare, and we've seen that, conferences we've been at, obviously looking at the market here,
Yeah.
talking to you,
Yeah.
more of that centralized approach,
Mm-hmm.
and you bring up a good point, the convenience aspect, right? We
Mm-hmm.
live in a world that if you can make it convenient, you have a competitive advantage.
Yes. And patients, they're just not traveling as far anymore,
Yeah.
even for the specialized care that, used to happen.
Right.
Especially because we're now bringing that to them through, and you mentioned not everybody needs medical office space. A lot of our projects tend to be in strip malls that used to be an old retail store that now closed down. They have the parking, they have the location.
Yeah.
It's just much easier. Now there's other challenges that go along with that,
Yes.
but the overall doesn't need to be just a medical office building.
Yeah, and then, to your point, important to understand what they need, right? And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of folks out there that don't take the time to understand what people need and what the need of the business is. But some healthcare providers can operate in, like you said, a strip mall that's business use, business occupancy, right? Others who are doing procedures have certain thresholds they need to meet. It's a different animal, it's a different beast. So understanding that is very important.
Yeah. And just being able to speak their language, I think that always is helpful to establish trust and credibility and knowing what they need versus, just trying to do a cookie cutter approach of commercial real estate in general and applying it to medical. It's so specific.
Do you find that it's there's analogies between between commercial real estate and residential real estate, the big difference obviously, but within the commercial real estate field, is it still a big difference between the retail to office to medical to?
Yeah, I mean, I think you see with since the pandemic, there's been a lot of redevelopment and restructuring of properties. So a little more vacancy in office than there was before. I mean, that's coming back, but there's in retail as well, different uses. And so what we're finding in medical is demand. So there's demand, but not a lot of supply, especially in the high demand markets. So the high growth markets have a lack of supply on the building side. So what's the next thing we're going to do? Are we going to wait, 18 months to have a new building, which is also going to be expensive right now.
Sure.
For both the developer and, either the buyer or the tenant? Or are we going to redevelop something existing? And so then you're looking at kind of repurposing these buildings that are there and need that adaptive reuse.
Your team focuses primarily in Central Florida, correct?
Yeah, we do the whole state of Florida, just not Miami.
Yeah,
But
we're with you there.
but yeah, that's what we focus on. We're very busy in all of those areas, but mostly Central Florida. Yes.